Information shared on the following program is for general information purposes only. It does not constitute legal, tax, investment, or other advice, nor is it intended to recommend any particular investments, products, or financial instruments. Always seek advice from your financial advisor, attorney, or accountant with regard to investment, legal, or tax questions.
Boy, the way Glenn Miller played
songs that made the hit parade.
Guys like us, we had it made. Those were the days.
Yep, those were the days, all right. But no matter what time frame you're in, it's all about family.
Welcome to the only show in the country dedicated to helping savers worry less about money, the Worry-Free Retirement, with your host, retirement specialist and six-time author and fiduciary, Tony Walker.
Of all the joys that come with helping thousands of savers worry less about money in retirement, I can honestly say what keeps me working so hard is not the money. I got plenty of that if I wanted to retire now. No, what keeps me working so hard at this stage of my life is being able to meet with so many people to assist them with their goals in retirement. You see, at this stage, it's not really work, but I see it as a privilege afforded to me and my company to see hundreds of people each and every year so that we might serve their financial needs in retirement. And at the forefront of this mission of helping more and more savers worry less about money in retirement and assisting them with their families, because in the end, this is what it's all about. It's not always about the money, but more about how we use the money for ourselves and, of course, for our families. Let's face it, while having money to enjoy oneself is an important aspect of why you and I work our tail off during our working years, having the ability to assist family, whether it be financially or just spending time with them, is a blessing as well. Which is why today I'm going to share with you the family culture and attitude of the staff at Tony Walker Financial and how our values and the family-oriented culture we have passes on to our clients in the way we do business with them. And why, in my humble opinion, so many savers are looking for the personal one-on-one service that we offer at Tony Walker Financial to enjoy a worry-free retirement. Because in the end, it's all about the family. Well, welcome, folks, to the Worry-Free Retirement. And yes, I am that little man in the sweater vest, family relations expert and full-time fiduciary, Tony Walker. And before we share with you what makes us so different in our approach to our clients from the rest of the financial herd, let me introduce two young lads who are like sons to me, America's favorite financial sidekick, Mr. Aaron Orender, along with his brotherly sidekick, Louisville, Kentucky's most laid-back graphics artist, Mr. Derek Hudson. Okay, let's think about your working years and your retirement years. Of all those years combined, what is the common denominator between those years? Well, I would say, besides making and spending money, it's the desire to provide for your family. Or at least, that's what most savers tell me upon my initial interview with them in terms of their money and what they're planning to do with it in retirement. You know, at some point, the issue of one's family and how they wish to provide for them, both now and even after death, is a topic which always surfaces in my interviews with clients and prospective clients. Yet, while the family is still as important as ever, the dynamics of family have changed drastically over the years. Gone are the days when I was a kid growing up in the 60s, and most families had not just one or two kids, but many nearby households full of 4, 5, and even 6 kids, and there we were running up and down the streets all day long. As well, most families lived within a very close proximity to their parents and grandparents. In other words, back in the day, families were much more tied together, so to speak, and dependent on one another. Today, as we record this show in September of 2025, things have changed a lot. For instance, here's just a few statistics about family that we need to take note of and how this has impacted one's retirement plans in 2025. The first stat, married couple households fell from 71% in 1970 to just 47% in 2023. The average household size is just 2.49 and the average family size down to 3.09, both historic lows. Fewer family households, including children. as also evidenced by the fact that as of 2024, 39% of U.S. households included the householders' own children under age 18. Here's an interesting stat. Americans are marrying later in life, with the median age at first marriage for men at 30.2 and women at age 28.4. And finally, birth rates are at historic lows, with replacement to those births well below the 2.1 replacement level needed. In other words, if young people don't start stepping on it and start having more babies, we're going to one day have a society that is old, gray, and running low on people. And finally, here's an issue that really scares the heck out of people in their later years: having less family around to assist them in their later years, and as a result, having to turn to private health care for support. So how do we at Tony Walker Financial assist our saver clients enjoy their money while at the same time making them feel like they have a family here to assist them in retirement? Well, when I return, we'll have some special guests to explain how we at Tony Walker Financial pull this off. So good stuff coming your way. This is the Worry-Free Retirement, and we will be right back. Have you recently retired, been laid off, or offered a buyout? Has the company you work for moved, been acquired, or closed its doors forever? And finally, do you have a 401k with a previous employer you'd like to move to safer territory? Then take advantage of this opportunity to move your 401k or lump sum pension to Tony Walker Financial. Let's meet in person to discuss your retirement options. Log on now to TonyWalkerFinancial.com to schedule your free, no obligation appointment. Let us help you today. In keeping with our theme of It's All About Family, one of the fun things I enjoy doing is actually meeting and getting updated with current clients. And it's funny some of the conversations we get into. Now, this is a great one. We turned this into a Tony in the Trenches, but this is a long-term client, Ron Clark, who watches the show all the time, and he had this to ask of me. Let's take a look. He says, Tony, I watch your show each week and notice you are always talking about your grandkids, but make little mention of your kids. He kind of laughed when he asked this. I assume you have kids, and if so, please talk about them more on your show. Thanks, Ron Clark. So this was so funny. So, okay, Ron, I'm going to quickly mention my 3 children. Yes, I do have 3 children besides all these grandchildren. We'll start with my oldest. That would be Philip. Philip is a psychiatric nurse practitioner in Bowling Green, has born and raised there, still lives in Bowling Green, married to Leanne, and they got a wonderful little boy by the name of Jack. Next in line is my favorite daughter, Lacey. She's actually a nurse, but now she's staying at home full time with her 4 beautiful kids, along with her loving husband, my favorite son-in-law, Trey Juergens, who works in the business. And then finally, last but not least, my third born, Anthony Walker, who Anthony, besides working at Topgolf here in Louisville, is a big-time pickleball player and actually now teaches pickleball here in the Louisville area. So hopefully that helps, Ron. And yes, now we have evidence that I do have 3 children. Now, speaking of more evidence that we keep this all in the family here for our clients, with us in the studio right now is our office manager here in Louisville, Miss Gina Tutwiler, and we're also going to introduce by Zoom, all the way in our Bowling Green office, is our own Shanna Zachary. So good morning, ladies. Thank you so much for being on. I know how anxious you've been to be on this show. Both of you are like, we don't want to do this, Tony. But it's part of your agreement. You remember you signed this when you signed on.
We do.
So let's start with you, Gina. Gina, in our Louisville office, of course, you're the office manager. The theme is It's All About Family. How would you describe to somebody the atmosphere here at Tony Walker Financial? Because you're greeting all these people that come in the door. Many of them have never even been in this place.
I think it's great. We have our office building is like a home. And when people come in, whether they're wearing their work boots, their blue jeans, their shorts, their t-shirts, it doesn't matter. We welcome them all, and they're comfortable here. They're not intimidating. Finances is intimidating enough. So they feel welcome and comfortable here so they can relax and feel better about everything.
It's like one gentleman, remember he used to come in from work and he always had the bright green vest, Ricky, I won't say his last name. Well, when he retired, we have more fun with this. He walked in with that bright green vest on. He said, Tony, I'm going to keep wearing it. I'm so used to wearing it. That was hilarious.
That's right.
But
I hope he wears one to our client event.
That's right. We'll get to client events in a minute. And then Shanna, you're the one that not only do you greet all the people that come in the Bowling Green office, You're also the appointment setter for all of my appointments and schedule, which there's a lot there. But speak to, number one, the people that come in the Bowling Green office, and then also when you're getting a new prospective client and they find out they're meeting with me in person, sometimes their reaction.
Well, like Gina mentioned, we do everything we can to make people feel very welcome and at home when they walk in the office. And when new prospective clients call and get the opportunity to speak with you immediately, they're usually quite surprised about that and very pleased by that.
And then speaking of family, over the years, Gina, I know even before you started here, our first client appreciation event in Louisville, I think we had 120 people at that. And what's going on now in 2025? How many events do we have planned, and approximately how many people are scheduled to arrive at those?
We currently have 6 client events scheduled for this year, and right now we have about 1,700 people to attend them. So they're very excited to come. We look forward to having them.
And Shanna, I know you've been to a lot of these client events. How would you explain the feeling of a lot of the clients that come to these, and even friendships, some of them that are forged where they meet new folks that are attending the events as well?
We have a lot of new clients that look forward to coming just so that they can hang out with the people they have met at the client events and have formed friendships with over the years. Our clients definitely look forward to the events, usually have a great time. They're very thankful to you for putting those on and enjoy getting to meet the staff and new faces that they've not met before.
And then Gina, Shanna doesn't really set in appointments with me, but sometimes in the Louisville office, since you're in charge of all of our media buying, I like for you to be in some of those meetings. First of all, just to see how people have heard about us so we can track our marketing efforts. But you've noticed a trend with some people, especially maybe they've been with other advisors. We're seeing a major revolving door going on with a lot of the firms. We have a lot of firms that are opening multiple offices, and we're seeing their service suffer. What tends to be the reaction of people coming to here for a second opinion? Why do you think a lot of these people are here?
Well, they come here, they've been frustrated because they can't get a hold of their current advisor. They kind of feel like they've been duped to some degree. They bought a mistake dinner maybe, and they went to one of their dinners and they got them to turn over their retirement funds, but now they can't get a hold of them. They can't get any communication. They can't get any service. And you have always taken pride in having great service, and just we go above and beyond from the moment they walk in the door till when a spouse calls and says, my spouse died, and we help them through all the process. And they don't really understand that until a crisis happens. But when it does, they know that Tony Walker Financial is here for them. And it's been great to see. It's been great to witness people coming in and out of the doors and being relaxed, knowing they have a retirement plan and they don't have to worry what happens when something happens to my spouse. They know that they can call us and we're going to take care of them.
And Shanna, I know you've been with me. How long have you been at Tony Walker Financial?
Almost 7 years.
7 years. Gina, a little longer than that, 10.
11.
You just came up on 11. Well, over 20 years ago, I started something called the 4-day work week. And one of the purposes of that was obviously to give the staff rest and let them rejuvenate and be with their families. So speak to, Shanna, your feelings as an employee, knowing that you have that long weekend, but also when you come into work ready to serve our clientele.
Oh, absolutely. The 4-day work week was a game changer when I came on board. We do work very hard. The 4 days that we are here, we want to make sure our clients get the best service possible. Even after hours, we have a call center that will still take client calls and communicate with us if it's urgent. So we're never unavailable, but that 4-day work week definitely makes the staff happy.
And Gina, you in that boat. I mean, the 4-day work week has to be exciting for you and Tut on that boat.
Yes, he enjoys the worry-free retirement, and every Thursday we get to head to the boat in the summertime and enjoy it. So we get a nice long weekend to relax.
Well, I certainly appreciate both of you all, both running kind of the offices. Shannon, not only does she does all the ordering of supplies and sets up my appointments and does a great job on the phone, but obviously, Gina, all that you do in the Louisville office. So thank you both so much for the service you provide our clients.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Folks, we'll be right back. Looking to roll over your 401k? Then log on to TonyWalkerFinancial.com and learn just how easy it is to roll over and safeguard your 401k. Do it today. Welcome back to the Worry-Free Retirement. And I hate to jump tracks here, but last week we talked about not getting scammed, and we ran out of time because in the studio we were hoping to have Mandy Houchins, who is in charge of our service. I'm going to turn it over now, and we're going to introduce our own Mandy Houchins. Well, good morning, Mandy.
Good morning, Tony.
And we're in the Louisville studios here, and you're down in Bowling Green. So as always, thank you for taking time out of your busy schedule to be with us. And we've got an integrated show. Last week, you were supposed to be on the show. We talked about not getting scammed. The flavor of this show is all about family. So we're going to see if you can tie both of those in together. So first of all, as someone who is in charge of our service department, how do we view people and their money and how we try to treat them overall as an organization?
We definitely try to treat our clients as our family. We do our best to protect their information and make them feel comfortable with us and knowing that everything is safe here.
And we go to great pains to do that. So what are some of the things the service department does on a regular basis, some of the things that we've come across that have allowed us to maybe make some modifications to do as best we can to protect our clients' money and that information?
Absolutely. First and foremost, when someone calls in to ask questions on an account, the first thing we do is we verify that person. So we're going to ask some questions such as, verifying information, date of birth, social, mother's maiden name. And then also recently in the last few years, we have had our clients start answering security questions. So now we use those, since we know those are answers only the client will know, to verify who we're talking with as an extra layer of protection.
Yeah, I was going to say, I think these new measures are very helpful, but these are even on phone calls, right? I mean, we're trying to make sure we've got the correct person who just calls out of the blue on the phone. Why is that so important?
There's just so many ways people are getting scammed these days. So anybody can call in and impersonate someone else. So we do take extra steps to make sure we're talking to our client before releasing any information on their accounts.
And earlier in the show last week, we talked specifically with Juanita Jackson and Shannon Ross about the Schwab accounts. Obviously, you oversee a lot of the annuities. I mean, we've got probably over 3,500 annuities minimum, all these companies we have to represent. So how do we get involved if we see that annuity companies have made changes or people are calling in trying to change beneficiaries? What information do we have at our disposal and maybe can alert our clients if we think something's going on that could be a scam?
We monitor any changes to a client accounts. We receive alerts or confirmations. And if it's not something we are aware of, we always call the client to make sure that they were the ones that requested the change. And then if a client has experienced fraud from an outside source, the companies do allow us to put passwords on accounts for clients to give them an extra layer of protection that way as well.
Yeah, I think we encourage our clients, if they have had a fraud at a bank or whatever, something personal, they call us. We do like to be alerted to that because that way we can then contact our custodians and alert them. Is that correct?
Yes, absolutely. We take that very seriously and jump right on those calls to make sure that their other accounts are protected. And
I know now this gets a little precarious sometimes, but why is it our responsibility? Let's say we've got an IRA with one spouse. The money has to stay in that spouse's name. The other spouse calls out of the blue and requests information about that particular IRA. What is our stance on that?
Yeah, we do take that seriously as well. We don't release information to anyone except for the account holder. The only exception to that would be if the client has given us permission to speak to their spouse about their accounts, then we will do so and it is noted. Or if they have a power of attorney in place, then of course we can speak to them. But we don't just pass information to anybody, even if it is a spouse. We do try to make that a very rigid thing that we do, and we don't make exceptions to that.
Well, Mandy, thank you so much for what you and the service department do and the diligence you put into place to try to protect our clients' money. So you make it a good one.
Thanks, Tony.
You're welcome. Folks, we'll be right back.
Tired of the roller coaster ride of the stock market? Let Tony Walker show you how to smooth out the ride with your money. Log on to TonyWalkerFinancial.com and let's get started.
Well, speaking of All in the Family, with us in the studios via Zoom all the way from, is it Sanford, North Carolina? Sanford, North Carolina, right, is Eric and Stacy Wilson. Thank you all so much for joining us today on the program.
Great. Thanks for having us.
You're so welcome. Well, first of all, tell us a little bit about yourself. And more importantly, how did you first come across Tony Walker Financial a couple of years ago?
I was starting to contemplate retiring from Warren County schools about 2 years ago. And when we moved to Kentucky, we were both in academics, and I had the chance to go into the teacher retirement system the state. And then Stacy, she decided to go with mutual funds simply because we didn't want to have all of our eggs in one basket. And when I moved here 25 plus years ago, the state retirement system was kind of not very stable. So we were afraid if something happened, we were both be tied up in that. And, we would not be able to retire. So we decided to look into that and say, well, what could we do to retire? And that's when you guys came in there and helped us out.
Well, that's wonderful. And then Stacy, you were at an employer, and I guess we went through an analysis and you were thinking about, could you retire, possibly move to North Carolina to be near your son? Tell us about that process you went through with us.
Yeah, because when we came to see you, I didn't actually think retirement was possible for me, because since I was not in the pension system, I thought, well, I didn't know if I had enough in my mutual funds, and we just didn't know if that was going to be something we could do. So I remember the day that we came and met with you, and you said, what's your goal? And I said, well, we want to move and be near our son and his wife. And you just took a brief glance at what was on our paper, and you said that shouldn't be a problem. And then your folks gave us a nice comprehensive plan that we came back and discussed with you, and we realized it was very doable, even if we chose not to continue working once we moved. So that we went home and made the decision that we were ready to go. So we started the process of getting the house ready and selling the home and moving, and I stumbled across a local community college, and I worked for them part-time in the fall, but then they brought me on full-time in December. And the nice thing was I had my mailbox money that you had set up, your group had set up, so that I didn't have to worry about finding something immediately that might not be a good fit. I was able to, do a little bit of work part-time and ease into that. So yeah, it's been great. It's been a good move for us, and we're both doing things that are related to what we always did, but different. So we've got new challenges, and it's great to live across the street from our son and daughter-in-law.
Well, we appreciate so much you giving us the opportunity to help you with this move, and we wish you the best of luck out there. And once again, thank you so much for your confidence in Tony Walker Financial.
Thank you. Appreciate your help.
Yes.
You're so welcome. Folks, we'll be right back. Don't let the fear of running out of money in retirement keep you up at night. Turn your 401k into mailbox money for life by logging on to TonyWalkerFinancial.com or call 877-499-9255.
Tony, I know you recently wrote a best-selling book that's called Live Well, Die Broke. I have to admit, that is not exactly something I would expect to hear from someone who's giving retirement advice.
Well, that catches people off guard because, don't I want to have all kinds of money? The whole purpose of the book was to remind people that you have to spend this money before it's too late. What I've seen over the years is people don't do that, and whether they want to admit it or not, everyone dies broke. What I mean by that is, Diane, you can't take it with you. So it's interesting that people work so hard to save all this money, but nobody's encouraging them to spend it. Now, here's the reason I believe the financial world doesn't want you to spend that money. If you start taking money away that you've saved with the financial world, that's less money for them. That's less commissions, that's less fees, et cetera, et cetera. Everybody makes money on your money if you don't spend it. The moment you start spending and enjoying that money is when you would get to enjoy the fruits of your labor. So if you think about it that way, you've worked hard to spend it, and at some point there'll be a point in time where you can't. A lot of people we have are getting older. They don't spend any money. We have people spending a couple $1,000 a month, and they come in their 80s and go, Tony, what am I supposed to do with all this money? Well, they couldn't even spend it even if they wanted to. They're not doing traveling and doing a lot of things they did when they're younger. So I think the philosophy is right on. I think it makes complete sense. And when our clients see how that we can make sure they use and enjoy and protect that money, and then show them how they can still use it without running out of money, it's a game changer, and it liberates them to feel like they can enjoy what they've worked so hard to save.
That makes sense. And you're dealing with savers. So that mentality, maybe you're having to mold it a little bit for them.
You're right. A saver, that goes against the grain. They've saved money. They're not good spenders. But we'll make sure they enjoy that money. And again, we'll make sure they spend it without running out of it.
For additional information and scheduling your free, no-obligation appointment, go to TonyWalkerFinancial.com.
You know, one of the things as we record this show in September of 25 is this idea of the big, beautiful bill, or whatever it was called, and this notion that Social Security taxes were going to be eliminated or significantly decreased. Now, like with any passage of any bill, first of all, let me say this. The more you make, the more they take. Folks, almost all tax laws have what's called phase-outs. In other words, the more money you take, even as we're going to see with this big, beautiful bill and the Social Security so-called tax savings, the more likely you are to not benefit from these savings. Again, the more you make, the more they take. And you're getting ready to see this is what happened with this big, beautiful bill. So let's kind of look at the basics of Social Security. First of all, let's imagine that a husband and wife, he has $36,000 a year in Social Security. Maybe that was his full retirement benefit. His wife took half of his in this example. And let's say they had no other income. That was it. The question is, will there be any taxes? The answer is no. Now, again, this gets very complicated. We have 2 tax certified people on staff. We answer all these questions for our clients. But in general, in this extreme example, if all they had was Social Security income, there would be no taxes. In fact, they wouldn't even really need to file a tax return. But what happens in the real world, especially for all of you out there with those tax-infested 401ks and IRAs that have yet to be taxed? Remember all those tax savings those things were supposed to give you? How does this have a rippling effect on things like Social Security taxes? Well, now we got to go to a complicated rule called the provisional income. There's another goofy tax deal. Now, the provisional tax income is dealing with Social Security taxes, and notice what portion of taxes could be taxed on Social Security. Either 0% of it, 50% of it, or 85% of it. Now, what's interesting, while they index Social Security for inflation, these provisional incomes have not been indexed for inflation for many years, meaning actually more people are falling into the higher tax brackets of Social Security. I know this gets confusing, folks. I didn't write the laws. I'm just trying to do my best to explain them. But here's the real world. Okay, first of all, let's go over these new big, beautiful bills. First of all, the maximum deduction it's adding to the standard deduction is $6,000 per person. That's all. So let's say you're married filing jointly. The standard deduction is $33,000. That means you will add $12,000 of a deduction. Not bad, but only if you make under $175,000, because then it gets phased out. For joint filers over $175,000, this thing gets to be nothing. And then if you're single, it's only $75,000. So a lot of people will not be eligible for this deduction. And here's the other problem. Again, let's say you've got $1 million 401k or IRA and you haven't needed the money and you're just letting the thing compound. You keep forgetting it's taxed. Not only is it going to be taxed, not only if you pull out a bunch, the more you make, the more you take, they take, et cetera, et cetera. It also could tax your Social Security. This came up the other day. Gentleman came in. I'm just changing the names to protect the innocent. He had $1 million IRA. He had watched a YouTube video to convert, okay, to a Roth, okay. Watch these YouTube videos, folks. I don't know who all these people are. Anybody can start a YouTube channel. We've been doing this. I've been in this business 41 years. I have over 20,000 people I've met. We have over 3,500 clients. Most of them are retired. This is what we do day in and day out. But the problem was this $200,000, not only was it going to be fully taxable, and not only do you get IRMA and all this other stuff it was going to affect on his Medicare premiums, but basically now every bit up to 85% of this Social Security that was tax-free now has to go on his tax return. And of course, with that amount of money, he's not going to get any of this big, beautiful bill deduction. It's just going to be the standard $33,000 standard deduction. So folks, if this sounds confusing, if you're sitting there in the dark about this stuff, we need to talk. We understand retirement. We understand tax planning. So if you'd like a free second opinion on your situation in retirement, log on right now to TonyWalkerFinancial.com. Click on that Let's Get Started. Let's arrange a free phone call to see if we can help. And if we can, we're going to be meeting in person to discuss your personal situation. TonyWalkerFinancial.com. Just click on that Let's Get Started and set up that free phone call, or call us anytime at 877-499-9255. Well, that's all the time we have for the Worry-Free Retirement. But you remember, between now and next week, if all else fails, you be worry-free and you make it a good one.